What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. I do apologize for not posting an episode last week or mentioning that I was going to take a week break. By the time Tuesday rolled around and work was done, I was like, you know what? It is what it is. We're not posting anything today. And I'll be honest, sometimes I have been not really inspired to do an episode, and it's really, like I've mentioned multiple times on the episode, sometimes it can be hard to do solo episodes, especially when you're not a reality star, there's not a lot of stuff happening, or you're not going to a lot of things, and you kind of live a boring life, but it is what it is. We are here today. But today I wanted to talk about something that I feel maybe some people won't talk about, or they shy away from, and that's being like hyper independent. And this is more geared towards females per usual, but like being that hyper independent, strong, self-sufficient female, and how sometimes that can make us feel lonely. So if this interests you, or if this is one of the topics you would love to discuss, then stay tuned. We're going to get into it. All right, guys, welcome back. So like I was saying in the intro, we are talking about, how being independent, strong, and self-sufficient can sometimes feel really lonely. And, I put myself in that category as well. I feel like I'm a very independent woman. I have focused my entire life on my career. I've prided myself in that, actually. And I guess it wasn't until recently that I was like, I am a pretty good catch. I'm pretty independent. And the longer I stay single, it just makes it harder to date, because you just become that hyper independence where it's like, you can do it yourself. You've done it yourself for so long. And then when someone does come in to help you, it's almost like, what do they want? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I kind of just wanted to do this podcast out. It's for those hyper independent, emotionally self-sufficient women, the ones who get labeled quote unquote intimidating, too much, or good on her own, end quote. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that. So if we're being honest, most of us didn't become independent because life was easy. We became that way because we had to. Like I've mentioned several times about my childhood and how I pretty much was on my own due to my sister being in and out of trouble and stuff like that. So maybe you also grew up in chaos, or with parents who leaned on you more than they should have. Maybe you got burned out one too many times. Maybe you had to become your own safety net because nobody else was watching you or catching you, I guess I should say, if we're going to use the safety net. So now those people don't typically ask for help. We don't wait for someone to rescue us. We don't lean. We carry. And yes, that can be powerful and it can be badass, but also it can get exhausting. I don't know about y'all out there, but I can get exhausted with everything that, is on my plate for being independent. Because no matter how strong we are, we're still human at the end of the day. And humans need connection, support, softness, space to not have it all together, places to cry, someone to lean on, someone to just be there, whether it just be their presence, whether it be talking, whether it be going to dinner, having a drink, whatever that presence may be for you. I feel like we all as humans crave that connection. And I used to think that I didn't. I used to be like, I'm so fine on my own. But in those moments when I was saying that, I typically was around people. Like I worked in a career where there was just people around all the time. So when I did have my time to myself at home, it just felt really nice. And now that I don't work around a lot of people and I am home more often than not by myself, I'm constantly thinking like, wow, I would really appreciate like a friend right now. I could really hang out with someone right now or something like that. So just being vulnerable and honest about that. But also, like, I, in the past, have had, fights with my friends because I would be like, y'all don't check in on me. Y'all don't even know what I'm up to. Like, if and me and my aunt have talked about this a lot. Like, we all have friends that you have some friends that are the glue that keep everybody together. And then you have some friends that are just kind of like there. And not that either is wrong. And it all comes down to personality types and whatever that we don't have time to get into because me and you's not here. And I cannot try to go down that rabbit hole by myself. But I remember like in college and stuff, like getting in fights with my very best friends. And I would be like, I went a week without texting you, and, just to see if you would respond or reach out to me first, and you didn't. But then I had to realize and grow up and be like, everyone has their own life. Everyone has their own family. They can't, I can't be so dependent on them when, yes, friends are your chosen family, but at the end of the day, they're still not your family, and they don't owe you anything. Actually, no one owes you anything at the end of the day but yourself. So that's where I would say it gets tricky. Like when you're the strong one and people do stop checking in, they stop offering help, they assume you've got it all handled. And over time, I guess one can start internalizing that. We stop opening up. We stop expecting support. You could also become the one everyone leans on, but no one ever thinks to ask like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm sure people can relate to this. So that's where that loneliness starts creeping in, right? That loneliness isn't always about being physically alone. Sometimes it's just that emotional aloneness. Like you could be physically present, like I was talking about in my career. Like you could be physically present with other humans around, but if they're not your people and they're not the ones you count on or you consider yourself close to, then you still feel lonely no matter who's around. And it's almost like you become emotionally invisible to people. And it's about knowing that if you don't keep your life together, no one else will, because you have to depend on yourself. And so that can become very heavy, like always constantly leaning on yourself, because sometimes we just need to bounce things off of, other people. And I think like even for me, I can admit it now and I can be vulnerable about it now because I've been through therapy. I've worked on, energy healing, and I have become strong in myself and confident in myself. But at the end of the day, sometimes I really get lonely. Sometimes I really wish I had either a partner or a best friend that I can just not constantly, but consistently lean on. Like I have friends that are there for me. Don't get me wrong. I have great friends and wonderful friends. But like I said, we're all almost in our 40s and they have their own lives. They have their own family. They have husbands, children, stuff like that. So it's not like it was in college where I could be like, well, I should be at the top tier list. You know what I'm saying? But if we're just talking truth, that most of us won't admit, I would say it's sometimes we do wish that someone would just take the lead. Someone would say, you don't have to carry it all today, or someone would make us feel safe enough to soften up. And that can kind of lead into a different conversation, right? Like if we're talking about dating, sometimes it's hard for females who are hyper independent to lean into their feminine energy. And I think that's just because we're so used to doing everything, which is considered a masculine energy. Not saying you're masculine or feminine when it comes to the outward appearance, and this is something I had to learn from Minu when we were going through energy healing and talking. She was like, you have very masculine energy. She was talking to me about that. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't feel like I'm a very masculine person. And she was like, well, no, you just have masculine energy. You have to be the one to do things. You have to be the one to initiate. And so I'm so used to that. And sometimes it's hard to pull back. But when you are in the dating aspect of everything, if you have a man that's not stepping up in their masculine energy, it's really hard for a female to also step up in their feminine energy. For example, so if I'm dating someone and they're never initiating, they're never asking me on a date, they're never doing that. I know one would say, well, they don't like you, hun. And that could be one thing. But also in this era of dating, it also can just be that some men want to be in there. This is all over TikTok right now. And if you don't believe me, look it up, soft girl era for the men. The men want to tap into their feminine energy. And that's great. I think there should be a balance to that. But if it's a consistent thing like that, so if I'm hyper independent in my work life, in my professional life, in my family life, and then I also have to be hyper independent, which would be more of a masculine energy into my dating life, then it can become a problem and it's not really balanced out. And maybe that's how men feel. I don't know. Maybe I should interview a man about their masculine versus feminine energy. Maybe they're constantly all the time leaning I don't want to be hyper independent. So I think it could be a give and take. But they say men like that because, obviously they want to lean more into their masculine energy. And sometimes when women are being in their masculine energy, it can turn a man off because they want them to be in their feminine. Point being, if you want someone to be in their opposite energy, you have to step up in that energy, if that makes sense. So if you're a guy and you want a girl in their feminine energy, then you have to step up your masculine energy so that the female can be more in her feminine energy. If you're a female and you want to show up in your feminine energy more, then you have to start doing that and allow men to be more in their masculine energy and stop taking control. So it's a give and a take. But going back to just the hyper independence, I know it always leads to dating because that's one of the things that, I do. So it's easier to talk about. But with all that being said, what I'm trying to say is independence kind of like becomes an armor for someone. It becomes the way we protect ourselves from disappointment, abandonment, or rejection. Because I guess like asking for help or being seen in that struggle sometimes does feel scarier, and it's not what we're used to. And I can talk about myself, obviously. So like, for example, I do stay in a masculine energy all the time because I am single. I do a lot of stuff by myself. I had to grow up very young. So like just getting stuff done in general, I am always having to put 100% effort in, right? If I'm the only one doing it, I have to put 100% effort in. It's not like I have a partner or a friend or a roommate or parents that continue to help me. It's me. So I do have to show up in that way. So it can become a struggle to learn to lean back a little bit, to allow someone else to step up and help you. But if you are in the season of your life where your strength feels isolating, I do want you to hear this. It's okay to need people. It does not make you weak. It actually makes you more of a whole person. And I'm saying this to y'all, but I'm also saying this to my inner dialogue because I have to say this to myself consistently, and I've worked on it. I worked on it in therapy. I've worked on it with me and you. So if it's something that you are struggling with, or, you do feel lonely, or you do feel like you're hyper independent, then maybe that's where you start. Maybe you start sharing that in therapy or with a life coach or an energy healer or whoever you have deemed that person to lean on. It's just starting small, right? It's you let one person in, and to me, I think it would be great to, have that be a professional. But if it's not, then you let that one person in, whether it be a friend, family member, someone you met on the street. You know what I'm saying? Let someone see the unfiltered version of you, the version who's tired, confused, scared, or hell, just fucking over it. Let them see that. Be vulnerable, and it becomes easier. If you don't have those people in your life yet where you can do that, then start showing up as you in your general life. Like, you don't have to be that hyper capable version of yourself all the time. Just be the real you. And like everyone has always said, the right people in your life will respond to that, and the wrong ones will just fall away. And that's kind of what we need in our life. We need the right ones to stick around and the wrong ones to disappear, if you will. I mean, that's what we would all hope for, right? I mean, it would almost make our lives perfect, but that's not life. We're still going to have the trials and tribulations. We're still going to have the up and downs because that's what makes life life. I was actually walking with a friend this weekend, and we were talking about this because we're doing a Bible study, and we were just talking about it. And I was like, I can't remember what she said, but she made a comment, and I was like, that's just how life is. If we didn't have sad moments, and I can't remember where I heard this. It's definitely not a thought from me. It's something I read or listened to on a podcast. But I was like, if we didn't have those sad moments, we wouldn't know what happiness is. We would we would feel it, but we wouldn't really truly appreciate it, and we wouldn't know what it is. Because yes, sad things happen, and it's horrific, and it's horrible, and it doesn't change that it makes you sad, but time does heal all wounds, like they say. And then once that sadness has gone away, then we can experience that happiness again, and you appreciate it a little bit more each time. So I'll start ending it here. And I'll just want to say, if no one's told you lately, I see you. You don't always have to have it together. You don't have to be the strong one every single day. Your strength can be beautiful, but your softness also deserves a space. And then something else that I saw on a quote that I think is really cool, and something that has stuck with me, is this: independence isn't about isolation. It's about having the choice to stand alone, but the freedom to not always have to. And that just really resonated with me, because even though I can be independent, and even though I can do most things by myself, it's okay to allow people to help you. And it does start opening that softer side of you. So if this podcast or anything resonated with you, then share it with a friend who's been carrying a lot. Let them know that they're not alone, and just I think we should just all show up better as friends to each other, and just I don't know, try to soften up, if we will. And I say this because this is how I am. And I know if I'm struggling with this, then maybe others are too. But anywho, I will end it right there. And as always, guys, until next time, bye.